welcome back to Bastionland Broadcasting. I've just been speaking into a muted microphone for some time, so we're going to start again. This is Bastionspiration, where I go a little bit off grid, and whereas I would normally be talking about Electric Bastionland, showing how to run the game, how to prep the game, today I'm talking a little bit about other games that have influenced the design behind Electric Bastionland and just generally the way that I run RPGs, because I think there's a lot of crossover between video games and tabletop games, but there's certain things that aren't the same at all. They're completely different in many ways. So it's sort of a way to look at that, and it also just means I get to come and play a PC game for an hour, which is a rare treat for myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reveal tonight's game. I will slowly pan up a little bit of music. If the music is getting... Oh, that is loud. That is loud. We will have a little bit of music. Very faintly in the background. But you're probably not going to want to have it blaring out. So if you can hear that now, I can now reveal the game we're looking at today. Is a game called Spelunky, and this is it's on PC, it's on various platforms. I can't do this with headphones. I find it really difficult. Speaking with headphones on is not doesn't work for me at all. So we'll leave them off. But the Spelunky is a PC game that came out. I think it must be 10 years old now. And it's it was on various platforms, and it's kind of it sounds like a really obvious thing now, because so many games have come out that sort of follow this mold. It's like a roguelike platformer, the genre that we call roguelites. So I won't go in too much into the history of roguelike games if you're not familiar, but essentially you're talking about random levels. You're going and exploring and trying to run through the level with as much success as you can. Trying not to die is the main thing, because death is permanent. You just get one life and that's it. So you know what, we're just going to go straight in, and I will start explaining why Spelunky is particularly relevant to not really just to Electric Bastionland. I'm going to have to do... See, I had this previously on Xbox. So I've bought this game again today, and I was hoping, I had hoped there wouldn't be an annoying tutorial for me to go through. I'm going to blitz through the tutorial while we really a non-skippable tutorial. Right. You know what, I think it's going to make me go through the tutorial. So, as you can see, it is a platform game, but normally, when we're not in tutorial mode, you will be going through a randomly generated level, and there are various things that are trying to kill you, and you're trying to get treasure. Now, it might sound obvious, like an obvious concept, but there is a lot of crossover between this game and sort of how I sort of ran D&D and sort of OSR-style D&D, and then what eventually became Into the Odd, because I think the key thing that it does really well is risk-reward, which is at the key for me of this sort of game. By this sort of game, I mean tabletop role-playing game. And it's something that I think a lot of modern... I'm not going to sort of slam modern games, but I think that sort of risk-reward balance isn't really as much of a focus in things like, I mean, certainly in modern versions of D&D, or in things like, Apocalypse World and these sort of more story game style things. They're not really about risk and reward in the same way. They're more about the story. So if I can just get through this tutorial, then I will show you exactly what I mean. Alright, it's going to take me through the whole game. Okay, so basically, as you can tell, I'm racking up a score here with my all the treasure that I find, a lot of which is just out in the open and waiting to be taken, but some of which is hidden away, or I mean, you can see bits of gold in the rock, or some of it will be in dangerous areas. So yeah, I can put a bomb down. Let's do that so I can remind myself how that works. So there we go, got some gold out of the ground. Did I fail to get yeah, I didn't get the rope. Okay, right. I've been too busy yammering and not picking up the rope, which was apparently gifted to me at some point. Oh. Am I failing at the tutorial? If that's the case, I'm going to say that it's a case of bad tutorial rather than bad player. Okay, let's put a bomb down there. I'm assuming the rope is down here. But yeah, once we're past this, I'll explain exactly what I mean about how this game does risk and reward really well. Right, okay, I didn't get any rope, but I'm glad that the tutorial does not require the use of rope to complete. Yeah, it's been a while since I played this, so excuse my controls. Oh, nearly penned myself in here. Okay, we can run over there. We can get some treasure. Okay, cool. Now let's get into the actual game, hopefully. So yeah, it's a very straightforward concept. Get as deep as you can. Oh, tutorial final, okay. And you have a very limited tool set, really. You have your whip, and you can pick up items. And something that I think really resonated with me for that kind of OSR style is that your weapon is actually kind of bad. Like, most things that you can throw, look at this situation I'm in here. Most things that you can throw will actually be better than your weapon at doing damage to opponents. So yeah, let's get through. So if you can pick something up and throw it, that's like almost outright better than using your whip or trying to jump on someone. And in Electric Bastionland, you usually start with a pretty bad weapon. So it all connects to this idea that your weapon isn't your sort of go-to solution. Whereas with something like D&D 5th edition, I think it's fair to assume that if you are the fighter and you have a sword, you're going to be probably expecting to use that sword a lot as your kind of main way to solve problems. But here it doesn't work that way. And in kind of OSR style problem solving, it doesn't work that way either, because encounters aren't balanced for you. Some monsters are just going to be too powerful for you to take on head to head. Some of them might just be outright not able to be fought, which is something that another game I'm going to talk about another day exemplifies. But the thing with Spelunky that I think is the most important thing about it, and for me the reason that it works, is it is difficult and I will die a lot. But when you die, in my experience, it tends to feel like it's your own fault. You can see here, just to the right of where my character is on the other side of the wall, there's this little kind of stone thing. Now, if I can get this back to come... it's a dart trap. So, one of the main things that you can do is you can use the traps to kill monsters, because they only have one dart, and if they hit you, it is very, very deadly. But if they hit an enemy, that's even better. You will have dead ends. There is a degree of sort of navigation challenge here that I like. But yeah, it's this kind of this idea that the world is harsh, but it is also kind of fair. Like, there aren't many times when you just die outright, and I think it's one thing for. So one example of a way that So I'm going to play this game the obvious way, which is this. There's this pot here. I want what's inside it. I'm going to hit it, and now sometimes like a snake will jump out and get you, and it will possibly kill you. Now, if that happens in a tabletop role-playing game and your character dies because they decided to open a pot and a snake jumped out, I'm going to say that doesn't feel especially good. In this game, it doesn't feel good, but there's a positive in that you've learned something about the world. And it's a very easy thing to get around. It's all you need to do is when you find a pot and you want to break it open to see what's inside. Oh, okay, we've got time pressure. Oh, okay, time pressure is making us act sloppy. Let's get through this. I can see the exit. Yeah, let's get out of it. So the what was I talking about? Yeah, so in a video game, when you die, it in a weird way, it's kind of a positive because you've learned something. So the obvious example is something like Dark Souls, or to a lesser extent, well, no, to a greater extent, really, something like Super Meat Boy, or these really challenging platform games where you couldn't possibly expect to beat a level on your first go. You're kind of going to spend like dozens of attempts trying to perfect this level. And you're sort of developing your player skill as you go. That is something that can happen in role-playing games, and I like games where you feel like you're learning tricks as you go and you're getting better. So the classic kind of D&D example is in sort of old school style dungeons where there's just hidden pit traps. The veteran players will say, well, you take your 10-foot pole and you tap along the ground. And if that was in a video game where it was something you could learn by falling in the pit trap, dying, and then on your next run you realise, right, well, I'm going to need to change my behaviour to account for this. That's fine in a video game, but I think in a role-playing game, even when you've got really quick character creation... Right, okay, so quick disclaimer. For anyone who is like a Spelunky expert, I played this game quite a bit, but it was 10 years ago easily. I'm trying to work out, yeah, it would have been before I moved to Manchester, so like easily over 10 years ago that I played a lot of this game. Okay, so I walked into the pit trap, which is bad. No, the dart trap, sorry. But I do need to rescue this woman. But I also want that key. So tough choices is the other thing that you get a lot. You can't do everything, and this is something where randomly generated games can sometimes suffer, because it's hard to have like meaningful tough choices when everything's being kind of generated at random, because everything can kind of feel a little bit meaningless and a little bit just random. Like there's no hard choices because everything is kind of slightly inconsequential. But Spelunky has just enough like elements so that when you have random generation, these elements combine in interesting ways. So we saw one earlier with the dart trap and a bat, and I was able to trick the bat into going in front of the dart trap. Now, neither of those elements are especially interesting on their... Ooh, okay. I did not see that. I've seen the trap on top of me. I'm going to avoid that. So neither the bat nor the dart launcher are especially interesting on their own. Do I want any of this stuff? I forget exactly what these do, but I will take some bombs because they're always useful. Climbing gloves sounds good. Right, okay. I'll come back to the shopkeeper because that's a really interesting choice there. But yeah, there's lots of elements in the game that on their own aren't especially interesting. Right, I need to up my game here. Because I am one of the things that's what happens when you're rushing, you see. So we have a constant time pressure in the form of this ghost that is going to come and get me after a certain amount of time. Now, I am panicking slightly. I won't lie to you. Oh, I'm dead. So that's what happens when you panic. You die. So yeah, there we go. Like I say, I've learned that lesson now of not delaying too long on a single floor, because that's what will happen. So it's just a case of pressing one button and I'm back at the start. But that feels... I'm not going to say it feels great, but I now feel a certain satisfaction in that... Oh, bollocks. And I now know that skeletons can do that as well. Because you're learning every time, but the distance between you learning and being able to implement that learning is like nothing. It's really quick. Whereas in a tabletop role-playing game, it can be like different sessions, like you might die to something. Let me just get rid of this trap. There we go. Oof, falling damage. I forgot. Right, this is not a good start. So you might, in a tabletop role-playing game, you might die to something really specific. Like, let's say the rust monster as an example of something that an experienced player might recognize and be able to deal with, whereas a new player might stumble on it and end up dying. Now, if you learn what a rust monster does, you know, that's great, but you're probably not gonna... There aren't many rust monster themed adventure modules out there, so it's going to be a while before you get to implement that. I'm going to sneeze and drink my coffee, bear with me. False alarm. False alarm, we're good. So the rust monster, yeah, you might not come across the rust monster again, so it's like, well, I've learned that lesson. There you go. So I threw that pot there, and there was a monster in it, so I'm getting to benefit from the lessons I've learned really quickly. I'm going to do the same here. I'm just going to... My new routine is going to be... Drop the... Oh, this is not a good place to be. Yeah, my new sort of procedure for that is when I see a pot, I'm going to pick it up and break it on a wall, because then if there's a monster in it, I'm safe. But in D&D, those procedures that you hear sort of these players talk about, of like, oh yeah, well, when we get to a door, we have this procedure where the rogue checks along the sides, and then I put some water in front of the door, and I check for air bubbles, and all this sort of stuff. I don't know. It never appealed to me in the same way. So, whereas I like how this game does risk reward and how it telegraphs danger, I don't think you can just straight up take it whole cloth and apply it to your role-playing game. I think you've got to be a little bit different, which is why I harp on about this thing about giving more information than you might expect. I think that approach for me has worked quite well. What's down here? Right. How am I? Oh no, I'm still just hurt from the first level, aren't I? Now, the shopkeeper is another good example of risk reward. Now, seeing as I'm almost dead, I feel like I might... No, I'm not going to do that. You can just attack the shopkeeper and take all this stuff without paying for it. I might as well start throwing bombs around because I'm in trouble here. But if you attack him, he will go absolutely mad, and he has a shotgun, as you might expect. And he is more than a match for my little guy with a whip. In fact, you can see one down there with a shotgun. But it's kind of a viable strategy under the right circumstances to attack the shopkeeper and just, you know, be evil, I guess. Ooh, right. but it's a risk. It's a risk reward, and it's not low. It's not a low impact risk reward. There's. Oh. I also speak about impact a lot, and this to me feels like a game that has a lot of impact. When I get attacked by a bat, like I will hold my hands up and say that I'm pretty bad at this game, especially after such a long break. I used to be able to get like a reasonable length into it pretty reliably, but I've never been like particularly strong at the game. But things like that, even the basic monsters can really ruin your day if you're not smart. Like, if you think about it, they're not going to do any damage. Like, if you're smart and you have a sort of a plan for dealing with spiders and bats, you're probably going to be okay. But when you do just start running around blindly, like when you're running out of time, they can be really dangerous. And that again is something that I don't really see so much in. Oh, here we go. Something I don't really see so much in, I guess, new styles of role-playing games. Now I've made an error here because I don't have any. I don't have a way to deal with this. I guess I could throw a bomb. We'll do that, and we'll hope that the bomb doesn't hit anything. Okay. So yeah, it's impact, and these darts are a really good example of that. Now I think these darts do 2 points of damage, and I've got 4 damage at the top, so 4 hearts, and one of these little darts will knock off 2 of those, and they also throw you back a massive distance. Like, that's almost worse than the damage because you're probably gonna get thrown into some horrible situation. So assuming that they throw you and you're going to take some fall damage, you can easily end up taking like 3 damage from one of these, which is like just one shot of killing you. But at the end of the day, they are meant to be, they are death traps, and you can avoid them if you're clever. There you go. There's no reason why one should get you, and if it does, it should always feel like your own fault. If it just kind of jabbed you for 1 heart and no knockback, fucking hell, these skeletons. If it just jabbed you for 1 damage and like a little minor bit of knockback, you wouldn't learn the lesson as quickly, and they wouldn't feel as satisfying to deal with. They'd feel more like an annoyance, whereas here, they feel like a proper threat. I don't like the look of this. They feel like a proper threat, even when you suss them out and you know the technique, if you like. They still feel dangerous, and in some RPG systems where you level up so far so quickly, well, even if it's not quickly, but you get to a point where like things that bothered you at level 1 are no longer a threat, just from a sheer numbers point of view. Like maybe a goblin literally can't hit you, or maybe you don't need to worry about falling damage because you've got so much HP and so many ways to recover your HP. But in this game, you know, you get some little tools to help you out as you go further down into the depths, and you do gain more HP as well. But a dart trap is still going to be bad when it hits you, because who knows where you're going to get thrown down to. They never stop being dangerous. Okay, so here's what I can do. I'm going to show you what happens when you attack the shopkeeper. I'm going to pick up this and fire him, and then I'm going to oh no, he got me, right. That's what happens. I thought if I froze him, I would be able to then sort of shatter him, but I don't remember exactly how this works. Right. It's probably a good thing that I keep dying, because I will not be able to concentrate on the later levels and speak at the same time. I'm really struggling with these, as you can tell. So yeah, things stay deadly, and that's why in Into the Odd you've got an Electric Bastionland, you've got a very low a low ceiling, how powerful you can get. Like, you've got oddities that behave in weird ways, and you've got some special things that might come from your failed career. you know, you might pick up some armor. You will probably get some more HP, but nobody wants to lose HP. It's always bad to get damaged. There's no equivalent of when you get to like armor class 25 or whatever in D&D, like where most things just can't hit you unless they're all in like a 20. The fact that every attack does damage does help with that, but it is also just a case that the power band is sort of deliberately very low. Right. And we can rescue someone, which is good. So yeah, that's Spelunky. I've got a couple more things that I'm hoping will appear as I go. Yes, there are a couple of things I've remembered. So the way that Spelunky's levels work, let me demonstrate. So I'm going to grab this woman. I'm sure it used to be like dogs that you rescue. Maybe maybe it was different on the Xbox. So I can be a riot bastard and I can use her to set off the dart trap. I think she will die at some point. So let's go. Let's get some bombs. Why not? Let's get 2. You can just straight up. Ooh, that's tempting. So what I was going to demonstrate is you can just like run to the end of the level, basically. In fact, there's the exit there. So let's get her. Come on, where are you going? Let's get her to safety, and then I'll demonstrate what I mean. Oh, I think I just accidentally killed her. Oh no. Right, okay, she's dead. But yeah, you can just run straight through. There's nothing stopping you doing that. Oh, right, okay. And we get more dangerous monsters as we go. That was not a good introduction to this monster. Here we go. Yeah, you can just run straight through, and I'm going to try and sort of demonstrate that now. Like, you don't have to really engage with anything, especially if you've got bombs. Like, if I could just put a bomb there, I can just drop down. Let's do another bomb here. There we go. And can we see the floor yet? Let's set this one off. And yeah, you can just like run straight through to the ground. But much like Electric Bastionland and Into the Odd, you are a treasure hunter and you're trying to get as much treasure as you can. It's the only real... I mean, you can progress all the way to the end, but you need money to buy stuff. And money is also just your score. It's always there. And... you know, if this had a kind of Electric Bastionland style debt that your character starts with, that'd be pretty cool as a way to kind of motivate you to get money early on, because it's easy to overlook this treasure. But you've got to remember, you are a treasure hunter, so when you see something like this for the first time, you're obviously going to take it, and then you're going to panic when that happens, and that instantly kills you. I forgot that it came so quickly. So the way that it handles treasure, I think, is good. I think it's easy to overlook it, and I wish that the treasure was a little bit more valuable. A little bit more valuable. There was more of an emphasis put on the treasure. And then the monsters are the other thing that I wanted to talk about briefly. I like that the monsters have a very simple kind of behavior, that they're almost like something out of like a Mario game, in that they just have a very, very basic level of intelligence and basic behavior. And once you kind of know how a bat behaves, you can pretty much predict what a bat's going to do. But the thing that I really like about the monsters, and this also kind of applies to the traps as well, is you can ignore them. Like, they are there as threats. You are not a monster killer going down into this dungeon to kill monsters. In fact, at this point, they're all just kind of animals. So I would say, like, ethically, it's kind of shaky anyway. Oh, this is not good. It's kind of shaky anyway as to, like, the fact that you're killing all these animals. Not good. Yeah, you're just killing these animals that are, like, you're coming down into their home and disturbing them. And, you know, some of them are more aggressive than others. But this little bat over here, I can just grab this rock and kill him. But there's no reward for it. There's no XP for killing monsters. There are some later in the game that sort of drop stuff when they die. And that's okay. But I like that you're kind of encouraged. Unless an animal is directly in your way. I keep killing this person. Unless a monster is directly in your way, you're really sort of discouraged from fighting them. Like, there's no benefit to killing them, except the fact that you're making the level, like, safer if you decide to stick around, I guess. But it really is, like, the perfect example of, like, choose your battles. Like, this bat here, like, I wish there was a way to not kill him, but I did have to. So yeah, that's me rambling about Spelunky. I'm now just going to concentrate and see if I can actually get to the next the next level, if you like. I'm trying to get this spider to... There we go. Perfect. I don't remember what these do. I feel like spike shoes has to be useful. So yeah, I'm gonna not worry too much about the treasure, in spite of what I just said. I'm gonna try and make steady progress through this level and see if I can get to the next area, because the next area has a couple of really interesting things in it. Spiderweb, again, that could have easily killed me if I was low on health, but just as you die, you sort of see your mistake straight away. You think, I should have seen that spiderweb. So I'm gonna ignore this one here. There's also a bit of resource management in the form of the ropes and the bombs. This is not good. I'm not huge on resource management in role-playing games. I think it's perfectly valid. And some people do like their games to be about how many torches have I got, how many ropes have I got. But for me, it's just not like... Right, I have to use a bomb here. It's not what I play role-playing games for, really. That's all. Like, nothing wrong with it at all. But resource management does not appeal to me. There's a light element of it in here. Right, I'm panicking now because I know that the ghost won't be far off. Yeah, I'm just going to use, like, all my ropes on one level. Why not? I just walked straight past the... Oh, it's down here. Rubbish. Yeah, lost my train of thought. This is why normally it's much better for me to just talk about the game that I know sort of inside and out. Let's just let that go. Oh, no. So, one thing that's interesting, and something this game has in common with tabletop role-playing games, is you will sometimes get unexpected consequences to your actions. And this is definitely a spectrum. Like, having some of that is good. Having too much of it and it just feels like you're playing a fruit machine and you're just getting a completely random outcome. But what's happened here is... Yeah, there we go. I released that boulder when I stole the idol. And the boulder crashed into a shop, which made the shopkeeper trigger as if he was under attack. And he obviously assumed that it was me, and so he was on the warpath. And then when I found him, he killed me. So again, that's an unfair kind of... That's one where I look at it and I think, well, how could I have known that was going to happen the first time that I did that? It doesn't really make much sense, you know, like narratively, I guess. But it's just a quick death, and then we can jump back into the game. And next time we find one of those idols, we will make sure there's not a shop on the map, or we will at least be prepared for the fact that the shopkeeper is gonna go mad when the boulder destroys his shop. Oh no, that was a good landing though. I'll take that. So we're gonna see, just give it another 10 minutes to see if I can get down to 400 meters. Snakes. Okay, snakes are not the end of the world. I like the fact that there is a key right next to the treasure chest. Ooh. Ah, so this is showing me where all the gems are, but I'm not interested in gems today. Ah, what? That was not good. Let's throw the bomb in here and hope for the best. That was not good. Okay, right, so when it talked about snakes, this is the snake pit. I now realise. And I'm probably going to use all my ropes getting back up here. Right. I'm not feeling confident that this is our run to get to the next level, but this is what happens. You set yourself a little target like this, and then you start rushing, and you make mistakes. And really, this is not a game to be rushed. Is there anything I can take from here? I could take this shotgun and kill him, but I'm just going to buy the bomb bag. And let's get a rock, because always useful. So 1 health and 2 levels down is not a good place to be. So if we can get to the bottom of World 1 level 4, then that will do for us. One little trick I do remember is this is some kind of altar. And we can sacrifice. There we go. In fact, that's really useful, because we've now got a compass, which means I can see where the exit is. That big red arrow. And if I dare continue to make comparisons to role-playing games, that might be what you're here for. I like the compass because it is what I would call an incomparable. In fact, most of these items that you get are incomparables in that. So we've got the compass, which points to where the exit is, and then you've got ropes, which let you drop a rope and climb up or down. And oh, over here we've got, that's not good. Oh no. Awful platforming. Right, so that was great because we had the compass, but the point I was trying to make was the compass shows you where the exit is with a red arrow. We were also very close to getting the... We were also very close to getting the gloves, which let you kind of climb up walls. And I think previously we had spike shoes, which I think, from what I remember, it's to do with like jumping on enemies. I think it makes you do more damage when you jump on an enemy. Now, you might think straight away, oh well, I think one of those is more useful than the other. But there's no objectively better item there. There are some things, like there's the various guns that you can get, and I think it's fair to say that some of them are probably just outright better than others. But incomparable items like the compass, like the rope, and even the bombs, to be honest, they all do different things, and some of them are useless in certain situations, and some of them are very useful in other situations. So they have this kind of situational utility. I remember these scorpions being absolute bastards, and I don't remember why. Oh, cool. So we've got a buddy. Yeah, I remember the scorpions being really bad. I think they just do loads of damage. Now, we don't take the idol this time, do we? No. Yeah, incomparables. And I think in role-playing games, you can't do that with literally everything. I think it's kind of always useful to know, like, whether a sword does more damage than a dagger. And some people try and, like, make it so that... Oh, okay. So that all weapons are equally good to some extent. And I think it's good to... Getting a bit slippery here. I think it's good to have some items where they are outright better than others, but I think the most interesting ones you get... I think the most interesting items you get are the ones where they're not comparable to each other. So they do something that kind of breaks the rules almost. That's kind of the holy grail of a magic item, is one that breaks the rules in an interesting way. And when the players get it, they're like, oh, that's really interesting, but I don't fully know how I'm going to make that useful just yet. I'm quite enjoying having an extra person. Can I pick her up and throw her? Yes. Oh, okay, right. So we now have, like... That was miraculous. I'm hoping she's not going to, like, turn on us if we get too... too forthright with throwing her into danger. So this is it. This could be the one. I'm aware that I've just jinxed it by saying that. Drop the block down. Put that arrow up. It's all coming back to me now. And it's kind of an interesting, like, flow state, because with other challenging games, like, you know, like the sort of challenge platformers like Super Meat Boy or... Ooh, it's not a good place to be. Or more recently, like something like Celeste. These kind of really challenging platformers where you start off sort of working on a level, and on your first couple of attempts you think, right, well, this is impossible, I'm never going to do this. And then before you know it, you get to a point where the bits that seemed impossible are suddenly you can just do it without even really thinking about it. This is not a good place to be. I'm going to have to drop a bomb. And yeah, you get to a point where you're so your skill develops so much that you're able to get through that first bit of the level without even thinking. You're like, well, it took me an hour to get to the point where I can just do this bit now on muscle memory. But here it's not even like, it's different. It's not really like muscle memory. It's much more kind of, it does remind me much more of like a proper RPG dungeon crawl where you're like learning lots of little tricks and you're just learning to spot things like this down here. So if I could please have that and drop this down here. There we go. I haven't fully like remembered how much of a drop you can take before you start taking fall damage. That would be a useful thing for me to know. I'm not going to bother with the scorpion because I remember scorpions being very nasty. One thing that annoys me slightly is that this rat So I can pick the rat up. The rat is not a monster, but it still always scares me when I see it. I think you can't jump on top of the scorpion. No, 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 no. Oh, okay. That was... Yeah, that scorpion is bad news. So there is the exit. Has somebody set off that trap yet? It looks like they have, because I can see the dart on the floor. But I'm just to avoid the risk. Can I take this guy with me? Why not? So we are through the mines and into the jungle. And this is, I don't know whether this applies to role-playing games, but I always remember this. Caution may bite, says they received their Electric Bastionland today. Looks great, thank you very much. I still remember the first time I sort of got to this point, and if I'm sort of taking myself back to that time, I'm feeling confident because it's like I'm getting the hang of this game now. You know, there's some tricks to it, but all you got to do is be clever and take your time. Oh, she did not take her time. And you know, just take your time, be smart, and nothing bad's going to happen. But then you're thrown into a new world where there are different rules. And these guys here. So these, like, the dart traps scare me. But, oh. But these heads, these sort of, yeah, these spike traps are terrifying. Oh, God. So I forgot about these vampires as well. Let's throw a bomb at him. Is he unkillable? I guess that's kind of the point, isn't it? Right. Yeah, he's a hopping vampire. I'm just going to run away. Yeah, so it's a brand new set of rules, really. So some of the skills that you've learned are useful, but then you've got new things like water. You might think, how does this water work? And I can't really remember how it works. But I'm going to stay out of it. And these enemies now behave differently. But I've learned enough things about watching their behaviour. And just how I should watch their behaviour and learn. And I can understand why... Oh, no, okay. I can understand why people like games that have a sort of long sort of advancement curve of gameplay, like D&D. I always forget, like, are there just a lot of these monsters that can't be killed? So I understand why some people express concern when they look at Electric Bastionland, and it's like there's no clear level structure. There's no, like, when you get to level 8 you will start fighting these new types of monster, or when you get to level 12 you'll be heading to the outer planes to take on elementals. I understand why people like that element of D&D, because it is like you're learning new rules to some extent. But with D&D I never felt like I've not played many like long form D&D campaign. There we go. I've not played many long form D&D campaigns, but I have always felt like, from what I've seen of like high level play, that you just kind of end up moving the numbers up, and the actual gameplay doesn't really change very much. It's not a case of learning a new set of threats and how to deal with them. It is just a case of making sure you've got the right character build. So yeah, that was a bit of a ramble tonight, but I enjoyed going back and revisiting this old game because I had a lot of good times with it. If you've not played Spelunky after all this time, I bought it today on Steam for like £2 or something because it's on sale. And I can definitely recommend it. The co-op is one of those interesting co-ops where you're almost doing as much harm to each other as you are helping each other. You need to have a clear set of guidelines in place for when you've got two people cooperating. I remember playing with a friend this, and it will cause a lot of grief. Fun grief, but grief nonetheless. So that is this week's Bastionspiration, Spelunky. As always, you can find out more about Electric Bastionland at bastionland.com. If you haven't already voted for Electric Bastionland in the Ennies, it is nominated for Best Writing. So make sure you head over there. So search for Ennies 2020 voting and you'll find it. And go and put a vote in for Electric Bastionland in Best Writing. On itch.io this week, there is also the Eclectic Bastion Jam, which starts tomorrow. If you are making something that is either inspired by or works with Electric Bastionland or Into the Odd. And what else is new? I put out something today on I sort of shouted about it a bit on Twitter. I'm going to be writing about it on the blog tomorrow. A solo game that I'm not sure. It might be the weirdest thing that I've written, and I'm not sure entirely if it works. But it was my attempt to see if I could challenge myself to make a game that utilizes boredom as a game mechanic. It's called Space and Solitude, and you can find it on. I'll link to it on my Twitter. So on Twitter, I'm at Bastionland, and as always, if you want to support me in what I put on the blog, the blog posts are supported by Patreon. So you can go to Patreon and, you can go to bastionland.com and follow the link to my Patreon, and you can pledge there to support me. These videos are not supported by Patreon. These are just freebies, but yeah, the blog posts are supported. So until Tuesday, when I will be returning to normality and doing another stream about Electric Bastionland. Until then, it's been fun, and I will see you next week.